Starting, all attendees are in listen-only mode.
Thank you for your patience. This is Noah, one of the educators with Shortcuts. We've been dealing with technical issues this morning, and as you can see, this presentation is running a little bit behind, and I apologize for that, but we finally have a screen. Hopefully you are seeing the screen. You are seeing some connectivity. For any attendees that were unable to make it or were standing by and thought that something had gone wrong or was canceled, we will be recording this presentation. So in a moment, we're going to begin. And today's focus, we're going to be talking about cloud reporting. So this is one of the new features in Shortcuts. We will record this presentation. We will send it out. So bear with me just a moment as we get the final details ready. I'm going to begin recording, and let's go ahead and begin. Hopefully everybody has their coffee. And on the right side, let's make sure report. Already we have questions from Neil. Neil has a question. Can you create one report for Summit Salons? I'm going to forward that request to our developers or our team and see if we can get a response to you. So that's a good question, Neil. I'll have to get back to you on that one. So with that in mind, let's actually begin. So cloud reporting. So as you know, Shortcuts is introducing a number of new cloud-based features for your salon, your spa, your barbershop to help you not just make appointments while the customer is in the chair, but also to start tracking your data, because it doesn't matter how much your business does if you're not aware of the numbers. And with cloud, you now have the ability to check those numbers when you're working remotely. So this presentation is approximately 30 minutes. My microphone is on, similar to our other presentations. Yours is muted. If you are unable to hear anything, hopefully that's not the case, but I'm just going to post a quick question on the chat screen over here that says, can you hear me? So if you can hear me, just do a quick yes on the question on the right side. And of course, we will allow a little bit of time at the end of the presentation to take any questions. Okay, thank you, Neil. And let's go to our next slide. So what the heck is cloud reporting? So how is this different from your traditional point of sale reporting? What are exactly the reports that you have access to? And how great is this feature for multi-sites? You're really going to love it if you have more than one location you want to keep a track of your metrics for. So as our Shortcuts parent company says, how do you start your hashtag sweeter life right now? I really like the candy theme on this presentation. So the big intro to cloud reporting. So one of the things that our customers have been asking for is the numbers, the most popular reports that previously you would only be able to run on the actual Shortcuts point of sale system. So the most important reports are the first ones that are actually being translated, brought into the cloud. So it's all your essential reports. It's all on a very simple, very clean, very easy to read screen. It's our dashboard. I'll show you the dashboard in just a moment. We have graphics, tables, reports, and you can access it pretty much on any system that connects to the internet, whether it's a home computer, a tablet, a mobile device. All of these reports load fairly quickly and allow you to do things that were previously unavailable in the actual Shortcuts point of sale. So before I go to the next slide, if you haven't already seen it, I'm going to introduce you to the cloud screen. So we're going to switch over screens, and I'm going to jump on my browser. And why is it not found? Just my luck. Let's check again. My cloud feature should be on. Log into cloud. again with the technical issues this morning. We'll pause where this one is, and I'll find out from one of our technicians in a second. I should be able to get that page up and running. So let's go back to the slide, and bear with me for just a moment, and I'm going to see if one of our technicians can make sure that cloud is available. So bear with me for just a moment. Okay, thank you for your patience. It was just logging into the appropriate one. So this is our cloud-based system. So it's very comparable to the traditional Shortcuts point of sale appointment book. You have all of the same features. You're able to make appointments, move appointments, etc., etc. But at the very, very top, you notice there's something that says dashboard. So this is where you can begin to organize the information that appears on the cloud. So you'll notice these little buttons are sliding. So there's a lot of flexibility here. But once the dashboard starts to load, this is going to give you a number of the metrics, whether it's one site or multiple sites that you may own. And you're able to keep track of your numbers and your data, and this information is constantly synchronizing. So if you notice on the top center, I'm telling it to search over my last 5 days. There's a little calendar icon, so I can tell it exactly when it should search for. So maybe I want to look at the 1st of April to last week, last Friday. So in this case, I'm searching through 26 days worth of data. And as it happens, it starts to recalculate all of my information. On the right, just to the right of the calendar, I have the ability to tell Shortcuts which site specifically am I looking at. So I'm looking at 3 of my test environments. So if you were a multiple site chain, you can focus on one or multiple locations. Now the dashboard is unique in that it gives you a snapshot of general information. Your retail, your service totals, your averages, things like that. But in a little bit, we're going to dig even deeper into our specific reports. So let's jump back to PowerPoint for a moment. So as you saw on our actual cloud environment, we have all of these graphs, charts that are very simple to read that allow you to see for one or multiple locations. And of course, having that flexible, easy to read data is something that was not available originally in our point of sale. So our software is becoming much more sophisticated. So of course, why would you love it? Well, having access to all of your data when you're working remotely, that's a major plus. So this starts to increase the ability of time that you have, knowing that you can focus your services on, you can focus on your customers, and you have absolute visibility, including setting certain metrics over your business, over your employees. So this freedom, this flexibility, this is something that our Shortcuts customers now have access to. So what are the specific reports? What are our key performance indicators, or KPIs? So with cloud reporting, you do have access to your net sales, your averages, your customer details, your rebooking percentages, your rebooking numbers, your service totals, retail totals, any upsells that the staff does, employee performance, employee productivity, and of course, the trading summary. Trading summary being historically the most popular report. And in a moment, I'm actually going to go through each of these reports so you can see what it looks like on the cloud. So with multiple sites, what exactly does the cloud do? So cloud will allow you to switch between the sites. You can focus on one, you can focus on multiple. You can consolidate your reports and have just one general overview like we did with the dashboard. And you can even compare reports side by side. So let's actually start to dig into it. So let's take a look at cloud reporting. So we'll go back one slide and let's dig into the actual cloud. So first thing you'll notice, this main page, when I went to the cloud site, it went to the appointment book screen, and you'll notice right away, this is not the same page as the traditional Shortcuts online console. That still exists. That is still a separate page. So if you are previously familiar with something like known as the console, where you would give your staff permission to look at their schedules using what's called Anywhere, where you would be the administrator of surveys that your salon is sending. So all of that functionality still exists in the console. The staff can still be limited to see only their schedule that's in the console that's using Anywhere. The cloud is actually its own separate page. And if you notice on the top left corner, this address is actually pointofsale.shortcutsoftware.com, and it has a specific site ID, which would be your own salon or spa site ID. So it's not the same as the old one, the console.shortcutsoftware.com. That still exists, but it has a different set of features. So don't make the mistake, and this is something that one of our customers did. They thought that by logging into the console, they had access to the cloud. Two different pages. If you don't have this link, let us know, and we can provide it for you. Your username, your password to log in should be identical to your console credentials. So once you're here, if this is entirely new to you, on the top left corner, where you have a number of buttons, one of the buttons says Menu. It looks like these three dashed lines. And from the Menu button, it opens up a submenu on the left side, and at the very, very bottom, there is something that says Reports. So on Reports, you'll notice these are not the 100 plus reports that we feature in Shortcuts, because a number of the reports in Shortcuts Point of Sale are important. They do have a lot of information for you. However, some of those reports you may only run once a year. If it's a tax report, or if you have classes that you hold in your salon or spa or even barbershop, you really only run those reports quarterly, if not annually. So instead of trying to bring all of those reports over, we started with the most important. And over time, we're going to build this report library. So the very first one, booking analysis. What this does is it looks at the appointments that are made in the actual location, in your actual business, customers that are making appointments using the cloud, or using, if your staff has a tablet or a phone and they're putting customer appointments in using those devices, it'll track that. If a customer is making appointments using your online booking page, it'll track that. And if you have the My Salon app, My Spa app, or My Barber app, and your customers use that to make appointments, it'll also track that. So you start to see, where are your visits coming from? The average amount that the customers are spending for these particular services. On the left side, most of our reports actually allow you to analyze, is it just for today? In this case, yesterday, last week, last month. So I can switch the analysis by just pressing one of my tabs on the left side of the screen. So this is entirely new functionality for reports. This month, what are my totals? And then on the right side, in my actual booking analysis screen, if I press the plus button next to these particular titles, I will actually get the details. How many total appointments did I have? How many were no-shows? What did that cost me? How many appointments were deleted or incomplete, never checked out at the point of sale? How many were completed? And then of those customers, how many of those appointments were made by one of my staff members using the cloud appointment book? How many of those appointments were made by clients using my online booking? So all of these features are now available in this live report. And this is just one of our cloud-based reports. So that's booking analysis. The next one, employee productivity. So this is a big one, especially when you're thinking about setting goals for your staff. Because perhaps you have a couple of staff members and they don't understand the importance of being able to communicate the great things about the products that you carry, whether it's a home-based product or one of the popular lines that you carry. So you want to make sure that upsells really help the business, it helps your bottom line, but it also helps them when it comes to commission. So when you want to see how productive your staff actually is, this brings up our productivity report. So similar to my dashboard, I'm going to set a date range. So perhaps I'll look at last month. And for which sites, I'm selecting all three of my sites, my 3 test environments. And then, there we go. At the very top of the screen, I can tell shortcuts. Do I want to include tags or exclude tags on any of these reports? So let's choose a couple of sites. I'll even expand that window. And do I want to search for specific employees or all of my employees? So in this case, I'm searching for all of my employees. So let's look at productivity. 6 sites selected, and this one. So we'll give it a moment to run. Perhaps I'm looking at too many days. Let's change some parameters. My test environment, absolutely. My test environment. Might possibly be searching for too much information. I'll just narrow it down to 2 weeks. Now I wonder why it's not generating. Possibly because somebody is in the server right now. Well, I'll circle back to this one. I should get some data out of it. So that was reports, employee productivity. I'll circle back to that one. The dashboard we had seen a little bit earlier. This is sort of a snapshot of all of the locations I want to select, whether it's one location or a dozen locations. What are their averages? What are their totals? The trading summary. So that's the big one. So historically, your business's most popular report in Shortcuts. This is in the Shortcuts point of sale under the end of day reports. Now, you don't have to be at the actual business. If you're at home and you just want to see what your totals were for that day and what your staff was doing, here's your actual trading summary. And for each of these reports, the information that comes up here, not only is it synchronizing in almost real time, at the very, very top of the screen, on the top right corner, if you're a business owner that likes to export this data and perhaps dig into the numbers, dig into the metrics using Excel or some other spreadsheet program, on the top right corner, there is an export button. So Shortcuts will export any of these reports and allow you to bring it up on Excel or another program so that you can take a look at the numbers and really start to track your own metrics via your own calculations. So that's the trading summary. Next to that is our employee performance. Now, this should hopefully generate some information. So in this case, I'm scanning across the past 20 days. I'm looking at 6 different sites. What were my staff's actual numbers, my staff performance? So this window will give me service totals. How many tickets did my staff do? What were their averages? What were their percentages when it came to rebooking or even performing upsells? And for any staff member, I am on the left side of the screen. I can actually click the column and expand it. So you're not dealing with truncated data. You can always move this and take a good look at this. But if you want to start to see breakdowns of information, so these are multiple locations I'm looking at. And on the left, I can drill down and look at the actual retail numbers for my staff. So Amanda, she's one of my test employees. She did a lot of retail. Her average retail, her upsell, her percentage for retail conversion percentages. So that's just one possible category. What are her totals? What are my business totals? What are my averages? If my staff is using discounts or applying some sort of promotion at the point of sale, I need to know what those totals are. So this report will also show that. And of course, if you're tracking your staff productivity, your actual hours that they're working, so what does it look like? And that is under our hours category. So productivity, the percentage is calculated their booked hours versus their actual worked hours. So what are their averages? What are their average service? Or what are their tickets? So every report does have the ability to be expanded upon. And my customer details. How many customers were new? How many were salon regulars? Of those, how many returned? What's her return percentage? Male, female? What are the percentages of these clients? So this is the employee performance report. And again, you can choose for single sites, you can choose for multiple sites, and you can always set the date range that you're trying to analyze. We'll return to the reports. So the last one, this is one that we've been getting requests for a considerable amount of time. Targets. Targets for all of our staff, not just for your staff, but for multiple locations. So being able to set an employee target, that has long been one of our top requests when it comes to reports. If you need your staff to hit certain metrics, you'd prefer to see them try to do a little bit more retail or perhaps a little more upsell when it comes to services, you can tell Shortcuts, for my staff, specific people or the entire staff, I need them to sell 10% more products, 20% more products. And Shortcuts will generate a graph. It'll say, is your staff meeting the expectations? Is this specific employee meeting those targets? Are they falling above, below, or are they on pace? So in my case, in my scenario, I tried to get my staff to try to do a little bit more retail and a few more upsells on services. So my goal was $45 to get the customers to spend on average $45 a visit. So for the past week, my staff actually managed to have customers average $88 a visit. So I'm 96% above my target. So I get this big green check mark because I'm well above my metric. And as you move your mouse, or if you're using a touchscreen, over these graphs, you will get a little pop-up window that breaks down what are the details. Why are you seeing this certain number? So in this case, well done, $43 above my target. And above that, well, as nice as the week was for me, the staff sort of dropped off. They didn't continue that pace. So I had a really good Tuesday, a good Thursday, a good Friday, but then sales sort of dropped off on Saturday. So my line, my actual productivity line, is this blue line, is not necessarily keeping pace with my overall business target, which is this dashed line up here. So this is where I'd like to have my trend line continue. On the top, again, I can set the day range. I can tell shortcuts. Perhaps I only want to look at one particular site. Or I have a couple of new staff members, and I just want to look at one or two particular staff members' productivity. So I can absolutely filter out and look at just those people's performance. Now, I haven't set any targets for employee number 11, so we're not going to see anything. So I would have to create targets for them. So let's see if I can bring this report up. So I'm bringing up the employee productivity report, and I should now start generating some data. I might have to limit it to one site instead of 6 sites at a time, because there's a lot of information that we have on our servers. Here we go. And I will look at my test environment. Employee number 11. One employee selected over this month. And at the bottom of the screen, let's generate that. Let's set up a target. So we're actually going to set a target for employee number 11. So at the very top left of the screen, I'm returning to my menu button, and I'm going to Employees and Schedule. And you can see this is a very clean, very easy to read screen. I'm either going to set up an employee or update an employee's information, or create a target for my employee. So employee number 11. Currently, employee number 11 doesn't have any targets. I could set a target for my business, what I'd like to see in net service sales every week, and I can change that period. Or I can go into a specific employee and say my total sale, my target for my staff member, let's say it's $500. In service sales, I'm looking at 400, and I'd like them to do 100 in retail. Average spend, $40, and rebooking. I'd like them to get at least 25% rebooking. And customer visits per week. Well, I'd like them to do at least 20 customer visits a week. So I get to set all of this information. Once I set it, on the bottom right, I can press done. And now I've set very specific targets for employee number 11. Now when I return to my reports, and I return to my productivity, I'll give this a moment, and now hopefully I have actually recorded, there we go, transactions against customer 11 And did they actually meet any of those numbers? Probably not, because poor customer 11 or employee 11 hasn't had a visit in a while. So let's take a look at employee number 11's targets. So I just created targets, and right away, Shortcuts is already starting to report against that one employee. There we go. So now I filtered out, and I'm telling Shortcuts, show me employee number 11's targets. So I asked the staff member to try to get an average of $40 per ticket. They're averaging $23 a ticket. I'm hoping for 20 visits, 20 customer visits, and so far they've only had 2. And rebooking, I'd like to get them at 25%. They have 0 rebookings. So unfortunately for employee number 11, they're not really hitting their targets. So I could set targets for all of my staff or my entire business. So that's entirely possible. I'll pause for a moment. It looks like Neil has a question. Let me see. What is the question? I have other options, but not targets. Neil, are you not seeing targets in your reports, or are you not seeing targets on your employee screen and not able to create them? Not in reports. I'll check with the developers to see if there has to be something enabled for you. So that is a good question. Another question, let's see, Etienne says, can my employees see their own target screen, or is that for managers only? I believe this is password protected depending on your level of permissions. If I remember correctly, your staff may be able to see their own targets. I'll have to confirm that. But on the last meeting that I sat in on, I believe you can filter permissions so that they can look at their own targets. So that's a good question. All right, let's actually get back to the PowerPoint because we're finishing up. So we actually took a look at the cloud reporting screen. We looked at the big reports that you can run, some of the options that you have, the ability to look at individual members, sites, and export your data. So just to get ahead of some of the questions, if I have Shortcuts Fusion reporting, how's cloud reporting different? It's actually more flexible when it comes to the cloud. As you can see, the graphs, the charts, the ability to filter down specific data, it's much more functional in the cloud. All of those numbers are exactly as they would be in point of sale, but you have a lot more flexibility. Does it cost anything? If you have the current version of Shortcuts, if you're on one of our tier packages, we should be able to enable this for you. And of course, how do you get started? We let our customer care reps know, and we can start enabling these cloud-based features for you. Now, in some instances, if you have an older version of Shortcuts, you may have to have that upgraded to a newer version before you can start taking advantage of these features. So we always want to check that. It isn't just flipping on a switch because everybody has it. You want to make sure you're on a current version of Shortcuts. Okay, so of course, if you're ready to get started, you want to go to, and you already have your link, like Etienne or some of our other customers do. Remember, it's at point of sale, pos.shortcutsoftware.com. It's not on the console page. The console takes care of something completely different. Okay, so are there any other questions with regards to using the cloud or getting access to the cloud? Okay, so let's see. How do I get it? So who is asking the question? So one of our people sitting in on the presentation. Who is this? Let me scroll up. Oh, Etienne. Well, cloud is relatively new. It was in beta previously, so now that we're beginning to roll it out, I don't think you would have had access to it before a few months ago. So this is relatively new, but I will find out how soon we can get this rolled out to you. Okay, let's see. Are there any other questions regarding the cloud that may have come up during this presentation? And again, I do apologize for the delay. We've been having some technical issues this morning. Etienne, I just checked the link and it works. Thanks. Oh, okay. So that's good. But Etienne, if you have any other questions, let us know and we'll get right back to you. Remember, we're always available on our support line as well as our education. You can always contact us at education@shortcuts.net and we can get back to you any questions you may have. And if you've been having just any technical questions or any technical problems with the cloud once you've accessed it, let our support line know. This may have to be logged with our developers because this is a brand new feature in Shortcuts. So we're still trying to optimize it for you. Are there any other questions that you may have? I'll give you a moment. And I'll go back through the list of questions that we have posted on the right. Neil, want to make sure that Neil is able to see his targets. Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, thank you for attending this morning's presentation. I do apologize for the delay. Everybody that attended will get a link, and of course, anybody that was unable to attend or had dropped out before the presentation started, we'll be sharing this link with you. If there are any other questions, be sure to email us, give us a call, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next Shortcuts classroom session.